It's 1865, and you left your shopkeeping job to become a gold prospector in the Victorian goldfields. Everything was going relatively well. You'd only lost one child to cholera, your wife was picking up double shifts as a bar wench, and you have a horse named Clip-Clop. That was right up until an angry man dressed in a fine tweed suit started yelling at you from the banks of a river. He was from a new organisation called the Victorian Water Board, and like all governments, he'd come to f*** you. He was telling you the toxic sludge you were producing from your sluicing operations was destroying the farmland, and no one had any carrots anymore. And because no one had carrots, they couldn't make fun cocktails at the bar, and your wife was out of a job, and you'd have to stop mining too. You were essentially forced out by a bunch of angry farmers looking to make sure that the populace had food. How rude. And in turn, you left a wealth of gold completely untouched sitting underneath farm paddocks. Fast forward to today, and most of our gold prospecting is done in some of the historic mine sites that were left by the old timers. There is a multitude of places, however, where the workings simply stop, not because the gold wasn't there, but because they couldn't work it. They couldn't work it because people were trying to grow carrots. However, unlike then, we are actually allowed to work some of these areas, and if you know what to look for, you can go and find virgin ground that's literally just sitting there, ready to be picked apart. Do you want food or gold? Because in some cases, you can't have both. Where I live in the northeast of Victoria, here in Australia, there is a lot of virgin ground that was never worked, either during the gold rush or modern times, because it sits directly underneath arable farmland. Right at this point here, the old timers were prevented from sluicing any further, meaning everything towards the camera is virgin ground. You can see how the walls of the riverbank are extremely steep and sharp, and there are no workings either side. No loaming holes, no sluicing pits, nothing. The myth in prospecting is that virgin ground was always multiple grams or ounces per pan, and while that might have been true in some places, the majority of places they were just the same as good pans we get here today. And luckily for us, this creek has some of the nicest pans of gold I've ever seen in my life. And today, we've come down to a section where Gadsy, just a few days ago, found some virgin soil sitting underneath these riverbanks. So thanks to the old timers stopping work up there, we now have a really unique opportunity to work a little bit of virgin ground ourselves. In all likelihood, these gravels were laid in here over 2 million years ago, or at least that's what the geology reports tell me. This is our river wash. This is silt that's covered that river wash up. This is a thick clay layer sitting directly on top of the bedrock down here. There is gold from this point all the way down to the bedrock. Now, I have asked Gadsy if he's okay with me coming here, and he said yes, so now we're here. Don't be a shovel dogger, they're assholes. We were getting gold out of this, but I kind of want to test the gravels up here because I haven't done that yet. I bought something for that. Ow! This is the section Gadsy and I have already had a play in, but there's more virgin ground in this bank the whole way along underneath these blackberries. You can see one pocket of it just here, and there's another pocket of it up in amongst these boulders. There's all kinds of well-worn river rock in there, and massive balls of clay and decaying bedrock. If we found this sort of decaying bedrock in the creek system itself, we would get super excited. So to find it in a creek bed that's been covered up for a really long time, I find very exciting. Just like the creeks and streams we have access to today, you have richer and poorer sections. It highly depends on how the river was laying the gold in when it was running. And there's no exception to that rule just because it's old. The main pay layer is actually sitting in a bowl, and then it starts going uphill at this point. The pan I took was at the highest point of that hill. Most of the gold is going to settle in the valley, not up here. Just because it's virgin doesn't mean that there's going to be gold everywhere. You still got to prospect it like you would a creek. And so we did get gold, we just didn't get a bonanza city. I'm going to take my next pan from the hard packed gravels deep inside the bank. Oh. It's also It's like working on cement. The ancient river gravels in my area were laid in by a glacier, and that means that they've turned into a thing called conglomerate, which is very hard to break apart. However, in this spot, Gadsy had already recovered some amazing gold from this conglomerate, so it was well worth the effort.
It's so hard to dig it.
Breaking the clay up was the next stage. Most of the gold was trapped in the silt that would normally be very soft, trapped at the bottom of the riverbed, but in this case it had been allowed to dry, and that's what was holding all the gravel together.
Now in theory, this should be a little richer than what we saw earlier, but it was much harder to dig because I'm in underneath that bank at the moment. Got really thick black sand, coarse chunky black sand, a little bit of gold popping out the edge already. Oh yeah, oh way richer. That was like an average pan we would get in the creek today. This, I was only able to scrape up a little bit of the virgin ground because I don't have proper access to it yet. And I still managed to get all of that black sand and all of that gold. And if there's one thing I can promise you about this spot is it gets better than that. Whether or not I'm able to actually access that better gold is another question entirely. Because you know there's 25 foot of bank sitting on top of it. Now, that is Gadsy's spot. He found it, there's good gold there. I really don't want to take too much of that ground off him. I've shown you what kind of gold is in that ground, and I spent the last 20 or so minutes clearing away the blackberries away from a fresh deposit.
In this particular section of creek, there is approximately 100 meters stretch that's covered by blackberries and gorse bush. This is directly covering up the original gravels oozing out of the bank. Now if you go to Gadsy's channel, you'll see just how rich some of these spots can be, but I wanted to open up a new section and see what was in there.
Up in here, we've got virgin gravels oozing out of the bank. That first deposit there's already given us a couple grams of gold, just literally from what we can scrape up. Then the gold dissipates a little bit as it comes up this mound. I'm not 100% sure what's going to be up there, but the gravels are looking really nice, so there's hope.
With a new section opened up, it was time for me to start testing, and the first pan wasn't so good. It was from gravels that were a little too high.
Well, I'm not going to lie, it doesn't look too good. I haven't seen really any black sand, I haven't seen any gold poking its head out. That was a lot of work for one speck. Oh, I may have just worked it out because this was from a, well, not so great pan of dirt. And there is obviously a lot more than one speck in there. And that's because my first pan was from up here and I realized that this is the high river gravels. So this is the equivalency of just digging in the top gravels like that gravel bar over there. So I just came forward a little bit, dug straight down, and I hit a really nice looking wash layer and that gold came out of there. I'm just going to keep digging in a little bit and see what happens. I just spotted something wild in my pan to show you where it came from. I've got defined layers now. Down here is bedrock. This section is all bedrock. It's got gravel sitting on top because I knocked it down. This sort of grey clay layer seems to be the silt sitting on top of the bedrock. That's giving me between 10 and 15 specks a pan. Just on top of that, there's this reddish brown layer, and then there's gravel on top of that. So I'm thinking that's my pay layer. That's what I'm testing at the moment. Look at this. I don't know what this is yet. What the hell? It vaguely looks like a crystal. Oh, I need a torch, but that's got the strangest pattern in it. I don't know what that is. If you know what that is, can you leave a comment below? It's more just, it's kind of translucent. It's got a very light translucency to it. Is that like an old crystal bed maybe? Besides the weird rocks, let's see if there's any gold in there. Normally, when it's really good gold, you'll actually see the gold at the back of the pan. Virgin ground is just unworked ground. It doesn't mean it's rich. It's just cool to see it in its natural state, untouched by man, and it does have a little bit of gold in it. Gadsy's spot's a lot richer. You should check his channel out, because you'll see some pretty good pans come out of that. You can clearly see that we've got coarse chunky black sand, a good decent sized flake, and a lot of very fine gold to go along with it. I am going to keep hunting here because I'm not entirely satisfied that there isn't a good deposit in this bank. Man, I've got it decoded. The bedrock that's down here has, you know, a reasonable amount of gold on it. We're not talking Bonanza City, but a reasonable amount. Then we've got this interlude of grey clay. There's not much in that grey clay. The red layer on top of that grey clay seems to have a whole bunch of gold in it. So from here up to about here is worth working. This, just look, packed full of really nice river rock. That is a big old piece of quartz right there.
With the pay layers decoded, it was just a matter of me poking around and seeing if the gold got any better in any particular section of this ancient riverbed. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm just a big kid. Digging holes and playing in the mud is something I thoroughly enjoy, so even without mad gold, it was good fun.
I love it. It's like a big adventure. Even if you don't get the world's biggest gold takes, it is super fun to pull apart the layers and figure it out. And Gadsy spot's going a gram a day if you're out here just panning it slowly. It'd be the perfect place for a little trommel, maybe even a little high banker.
The majority of this dirt would eventually end up in my Paydirt bags, and I love being able to offer people the opportunity to pan something just like this at home. Real virgin ground, only ever touched by a single human.
I'm actually putting a bunch of these concentrates on my website in the form of slobber bags. They're unsearched Paydirt, where you get the real life opportunity to pan down concentrates that come from this spot. Check out my website, theoldmouldy.com.au. It's the best way to help support the channel. Well, there's no doubt there's going to be gold. Oh yeah. Yep. We're not talking Bonanza City, and that's alright, because we've got gold in a place where no one's ever dug before. Given how much gold's come out of that spot, I'd be willing to bet my bottom gold, the last golds I ever had, that if I kept exploring that bank, we're going to find a rich pocket. The only problem is there is a lot of bank. Just a lot of bank to check. The particle size is remaining very nice. I'm happy to get pieces of that size because they do add up once you get a lot of them. Obviously, this may not be the spot that I should be working. I've gone in a fair way. It's remained super consistent. We're getting gold in every pan between 10 and 20 pieces.
Nonetheless, I'd managed to stay on relatively consistent gold all day, meaning that I was able to accumulate a decent amount of gold for my efforts.
Nonetheless, that gravel over there gave us a fairly respectable take of gold for a little bit of effort. And what's even cooler about this gold is that no one has ever seen this before. You and I are the first people on Earth to ever lay eyes on these specks. Maybe not the world's best example of virgin ground. There is some really good stuff out there, and I've seen some people find phenomenal gold out of ground that's never been worked before. But getting the opportunity to work even a small pocket like this one is unique and quite rare.